Om Namo Narayanaya. Welcome back. We are in Canto 4, Chapter 5, Frustration of the Sacrifice of Daksha. When Lord Shiva heard from Narada that Sati, his wife, was now dead because of Prajapati Daksha's insult to her, and that his soldiers had been driven away by the Ribu demigods, he became greatly angry. Thus Lord Shiva, being extremely angry, pressed his lips with his teeth, and immediately snatched from his head a strand of hair which blazed like electricity or fire. He stood up at once, laughing like a madman, and dashed the hair to the ground. A fearful black demon as high as the sky and as bright as 3 suns combined was thereby created. His teeth were very fearful, and the hairs in his head were like burning fire. He had thousands of arms equipped with various weapons, and he was garlanded with the heads of men. When the gigantic demon asked with folded hands, "What shall I do, my lord?" Lord Shiva, who is known as Bhutatnatha, directly ordered, "Because you are born from my body, you are chief of all my associates. Therefore, kill Daksha and his soldiers at the sacrifice." That black demon was the personified anger of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was prepared to execute the orders of Lord Shiva. Thus, considering himself capable of coping with any power offered against him, he circumambulated Lord Shiva. Many other soldiers of Lord Shiva followed the fierce personality in a tumultuous uproar. He carried a great trident, fearful enough to kill even death, and on his legs he wore bangles which seemed to roar. At that time all the persons assembled in the sacrificial arena, the priests, the chief of the sacrificial performance, and the brahmanas and their wives, wondered where the darkness was coming from. Later, they could understand that it was a dust storm, and all of them were full of anxiety. Conjecturing on the origin of the storm, they said, "There is no wind blowing, and no cows are passing, nor is it possible that this dust storm could be raised by plunderers, for there is still the strong King Bari who would punish them. So where is this dust storm blowing from? Is the dissolution of the planet now to occur?" Prasuti, the wife of Daksha, along with other women assembled, became very, very anxious and said, "This danger has been created by Daksha because of the death of Sati, even though completely innocent, quit her body as her sisters looked on. At the time of dissolution, Lord Shiva's hair is scattered, and he pierces the rulers of the different directions with his trident. He laughs and dances proudly, scattering their hands like flags, as thunder scatters the clouds all over the world. The gigantic black beast bared his fearful teeth. By the movements of his brows, he scattered the luminaries all over the sky, and he covered them with his strong, piercing effulgence. Because of the misbehavior of Daksha, even Lord Brahma, Daksha's father, could not have been saved from the great exhibition of anger. While all the people talked amongst themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. All the followers of Lord Shiva surrounded the arena of sacrifice. They were of short stature and were equipped with various kinds of weapons. Their bodies appeared to be like those of sharks, blackish and yellow. They ran all around the sacrificial arena and thus began to create disturbances. Some of the soldiers pulled down the pillars which were supporting the pandal of sacrifice. Some of them entered the female quarters. Some began destroying the sacrificial arena, and some entered the kitchen and the residential quarters. They broke all the pots made for use in the sacrifice, and some of them began to extinguish the sacrificial fire. Some tore down the boundary line of the sacrificial area, and some passed urine on the arena. Some blocked the way of the fleeing sages. Some threatened the women, and some arrested the demigods who were fleeing. Maniman, one of the followers of Lord Shiva, arrested Bhargumuni. And Virabhadra, the demon, arrested Prajapati Daksha himself. Another follower, who was named Kandesha, arrested Pusa. Nandisvara arrested the dangerous demigod Bhaga. There were a continuous shower of stones, and all the priests and other members assembled at the sacrifice were put into immense misery. For fear of their lives, they dispersed in countless directions. Virabhadra tore off the mustache of Bhrigu, who was offering the sacrificial oblations with his hands in the fire. Virabhadra immediately caught Bhaga, who had been moving his eyebrows during Bhrigu's cursing of Lord Shiva, and out of great anger thrust him to the ground and forcibly put out his eyes. Just as Baladeva knocked out the teeth of Dantavakra, the king of Kalinga, during the gambling match at the marriage ceremony of Anirudra, Virabhadra knocked out the teeth of both Daksha, who had shown them while cursing Lord Shiva, and Pusha, who by smiling sympathetically had also shown his teeth. Then Virabhadra, the giant-like personality, sat on the chest of Daksha and tried to separate his head from his body with sharp weapons, but was unsuccessful. He tried to cut the head off Daksha with hymns as well as weapons, but still it was hard to cut even the surface of the skin of Daksha's head. Thus Virabhadra was exceedingly bewildered. Then Virabhadra saw the wooden device in the sacrificial arena by which the animals were to have been killed. He took the opportunity of this faculty to behead Daksha. Upon seeing the action of Virabhadra, the party of Lord Shiva was pleased and cried out joyfully, and all the bhutas, ghosts, and demons that had come made a tumultuous sound. On the other hand, the brahmanas in charge of the sacrifice cried out in grief at the death of Daksha. Virabhadra then took the head, and with great anger threw it into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, offering it as an oblation. In this way, the followers of Lord Shiva devastated all the arrangements for sacrifice. After setting fire to the whole arena, they departed for their master's abode, Kailasha. Thus ends chapter 5. Maybe one of the bloodiest chapters I've read so far in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Wow, that was intense and fierce. So that showed us some things we've already touched on before. Like at one point he was trying to behead with a weapon and also a hymn. And I mentioned in a previous video how the hymns of the ancient Vedas used to have power. You could create things just with a hymn. Getting to see that again. Also, I did a short talk in a previous video about the good and bad in Hinduism. I think this is one of my Yoga Sutra videos. How in, let's say, Christianity, we paint God as purely good or purely bad, is Satan. Jesus is just a perfect person, and then there's also really bad folks like Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's this constant good and bad fight that the whole Christian narrative has and the Christian worldview has, and we don't find this here. Lord Shiva is a bad boy, or he can be a bad boy. He can be very angry and fierce and just destroy. But then it makes the argument, is Lord Shiva acting good, or is he acting revengefully? Could he have approached us in a different way? Yeah, probably he could have. But the thing is, with Hinduism, sometimes he acts very much like a person who is in the mode of, anger. I get on forums and I see Christians talk about, oh, this is Satan in the world, or Trump is Satan, or Joe Biden is Satan, and we must defeat evil. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You're never going to do that, because it is literally impossible. Because you cannot defeat evil. Because from my point of view, you have evil and good always together. And you remove one, you can't have the other. For example, if you remove a sunset from the universe, you can't have a sunrise. Yeah, I think that works as an example. So this touched on some things that we've seen previously. I'd also talked about the sacrificial fires, which we don't do anymore in the Kali Yuga. We no longer need to do those, thank God. So yeah, there's some bloody aspects to Hindu history, but it's worth learning about, and it's worth acknowledging that they exist. But it was a different time, it was a different world, and since Krishna left the earth, we have been in the Kali Yuga, and we don't need any of this, and we will never return to those things. Let's see. This is, yeah. This was such a violent such a violent chapter. And these gods fight all the time. Actually, we've already seen some fighting going on in a previous Srimad Bhagavatam with Lord Boar, one of the avatars of Vishnu, came down and fought. And so it's really interesting to visit these themes again, because we've already touched on these themes in other places, and then to see them again, you're like, oh wow, this connects with something, or oh wait a minute, I have already delved into this theme, and I enjoy that. I like seeing these familiar things come up, because then you start seeing them from a new perspective. I hope, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, thoughts, comments, whatever. Even arguing, even saying, what type of religion is this? Because I thought you believed in ahimsa, and ahimsa is non-violence. And please check out a previous video of mine where I discuss ahimsa. I think I've done it on multiple videos, but essentially ahimsa does not mean non-violence. It means lessening of the violence. The idea of just being peaceful and calm is more of a Buddhist thing, but it's also a mistranslation. A Hindu scripture doesn't reflect that, as we see here. So, if you want to argue that and discuss that, we can do that in the comments down below. But other than that, thoughts, comments, whatever you would like to say, how you respond to this text, would be most welcome and interesting. And this is just one of those chapters where you go, whoa, what did I just read? Wow, So, anyways, with that, thank you for watching. As we work through the Srimad Bhagavatam, a book that I just really like. I just really enjoy this for some reason. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.